I'm Patrick Roth, Senior Support Engineer for E1 Business Solutions. Today we're going to talk about common eConnect error that you get when creating GP purchase orders. This is a simple map for a GP purchase order. We'll import one purchase order with two lines. And a common problem that you run into when you run this is error 370. Subtotal does not match line item totals. It's a little bit difficult to diagnose because the error comes from the TAPO header, and it's just saying that your subtotal that you're passing into 778025, but we don't know offhand what the line subtotals are. And in this case, the subtotal of all the extended costs. And so if we look at our map, it's a standard map, and we have line item costs mapped, and then of course the map. And if we look in the create purchase order header, we have a subtotal map to unit cost. Now in this particular case, this is wrong because I have multiple items. The unit cost, I could have multiple quantities. The subtotal should equal all the extended costs of all the lines. In this case, this is the wrong value. And I could probably figure this out with some calculations because I don't have a specific field of the total PO amount. I like that SmartConnect, or I should say eConnect actually, should be able to handle this for us. And if I unmap this field, I'll get an error because it is a required field. Now the question is, why is it a required field? The reason why it's a required field is that the eConnect SDK, which is what we're using to call the Microsoft eConnect procs to do this in the documentation, says that is required. And that actually isn't exactly true. It used to be required in some of the initial releases way back in GP. But if we look at like sales order processing, the subtotal is not a required field. If you do not pass the field, it will calculate it for you. And a little known fact is at some point during GP development, they actually changed the subtotal from being required and you pass in the value to do the same thing sales order processing does. And instead, it will calculate it. It will validate it if you pass it. But if you do not pass it, it will calculate it for you, just like sales order processing does. So to solve that in the GP's SmartConnect GP side, go to node maintenance, find purchase order processing, find purchase orders, pull up our create purchase order, find the subtotal field, and we will unmark it as required. Now if I close this and go back to our integration, pull up the same node, and now notice that it's no longer required because we just unmarked it in the thing. So we can just unmap that here. So we can see what happens if I unmap this. So if I unmap it, we can see that it is now successful. So I did not pass in a subtotal, and so this means that eConnect did the subtotal for me. It figured out the extended costs on each line, it subtotaled them up for me and filled it in with a correct value. So this is how we can do this without having to provide the subtotal, and we can resolve the 370 error.